Started the recording. I'm going live.
Cool.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Let's give everyone a minute to join before we begin. And in the meantime, go ahead and add where you're joining from in the little chat box on the bottom right. Awesome. We've got Sarah from Oregon, Chris from Vancouver. I see John from Missouri, Mark from Iowa. There's so many answers at the same time. I'm slowly going through each of them. We have Washington, again, Vancouver, Manchester. Good morning, Texas. Tyler from California. Tim from Aruba. Where is Aruba? Dylan, Joe, do you guys have any idea?
Island, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm assuming so. We have Erin from Toronto, Corey from Oklahoma, George from Virginia, Houston, Texas. Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for putting that in. Let's go ahead and get things started here. Firstly, thank you, everyone, for joining us today for our Fieldwire live demo on RFI submittals and specifications. My name is Pranati Gumpa, and I'm a marketing program manager here at Fieldwire. Before we begin, let's go through a few housekeeping items. To ensure the smooth session, all the attendees are muted, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions you may have in the chat panel, the same place where you put your location. Just go ahead and type in those questions. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this presentation, and we will do our best to address as many questions as we can. And for any questions we don't get to, we will reach out back to you through an email and respond back to you. Also, we have a few poll questions as we're going through this webinar. We would love if you could participate in those, and they just let us know. They just let us know where you're joining from and what your role is, and just helps us understand you guys a little bit more. At the end, we also have a quick 5-question survey, and we would again love if you can take a couple of minutes and you could fill that out. And that survey basically helps us to determine the usefulness of this webinar and also helps us to plan for the future webinars. Before we dive into this webinar, let's go ahead and kick things off with the first poll question. So, again, the first poll question: what type of company are you working for? Architect, engineer, consultant, GC, sub. I see a couple of you are putting other. Again, if it's other, I would really love to know what other means. Go ahead and add it in the chat box. Let's give it another minute before people answer this question. Awesome. Thank you so much. And then we have a quick second question here, just to understand, again, your roles at your company. Project manager, project coordinator, engineer, super foreman, project executive, IT. Again, if you're adding others, just go ahead and add what that other means in the chat box. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for answering those 2 questions. Without further ado, I would like to welcome today's presenters, Dylan Reed and Joe Fitzpatrick. The floor is yours,
Thank
Dylan.
you. Cool. Thank you, Pranati. My name's Dylan. I'm a senior construction success manager here at Fieldwire. I've been here for about 4 years, And my role is to help manage some of our largest accounts and ensure that they're successful through like trainings and workflow consultations. And before coming here, I used to do project management for a pretty large plumbing and mechanical sub in the Bay Area. And I'm also here with Joe, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey, everybody. Great to meet you. I'm Joe Fitzpatrick, a senior product manager at Fieldwire, focused on our Business Plus tier of features. So improving our RFIs, submittals, change orders, and budget. The first two that we're going to check out today. Been here 4.5 years. Before this was at another construction tech startup, and then was at a general contractor in the Bay Area for a little over 3 years. But yeah, really excited to chat with you guys today and show you some of our RFI submittal spec workflows.
Awesome. So quick agenda here. Obviously, we just went through introductions, but also want to give you a quick kind of overview of Fieldwire, especially for those that have not seen much about Fieldwire. If you haven't, I would recommend checking out some of our other webinars that dive into some other topics, or looking at some of our tutorial videos to learn more. And then we'll spend most of our time in the actual product demo itself, where me and Joe will be walking through workflows for both RFI specs and submittals. And then we'll have that time at the end, like Pranathi said, for the Q&A. So again, if you have any questions that pop up throughout our demo, please just put them in the chat, and then we'll do our best to get to those at the end. All right. So diving in here, before we get into the demo, we just wanted to give you kind of a high level overview of Fieldwire and like what also we'll get it specifically covered today. But at a high level, basically Fieldwire aims to connect the field and the office. And we do that by solving three main problems around access, management, and documentation. Our goal is to kind of integrate everything you need into one platform. So there's no need to check your email to track information down or like other places, because everything's being updated in real time and it's easy to find. So going through these three main pillars here: access anywhere at any time. This means that you can like easily view your up-to-date plans, your BIM models, files, reports. All of those are available for you to view both in the field and in the office. And you have instant access to everything that you might need on your project. And then planning and managing in real time, your work in real time. Here you can like coordinate work using our tasks tool and using things in the tasks like messaging or checklist and customized workflow templates. And this lets you easily communicate with other relevant stakeholders on both planned work or issues that arise on your project. And then the last one here, tracking and reporting progress. Here you can leverage quite a few different tools, such as like forms, tasks, reports, change orders, RFIs, and more, to kind of document your progress and then any issues that arise. Today, obviously, our focus is going to be around RFI, submittals, and specs. But me and Joe will be walking through a couple of different perspectives here of what it's like to use these tools, both as a GC and as a sub. All right, we'll jump into it now. I'm going to hop over into my demo project here, and we'll get into it. So I'm going to go into my RFI tool here within my project, and just want to start by kind of giving you an overview of the log and like what we're looking at here. So meant to be pretty straightforward and simple to view, but we have our number on the left here. We have the name of the RFI. We have like the status that it's currently in, the due date, and then who it's currently assigned to. And then at the top here, especially as like, this is really helpful as like your RFI log gets a lot longer and you have a lot more, but it gives us our count of number of RFIs within each one of those statuses. And then we also have some filters here at the top. These are really helpful, again, as you get more of them in here. But like my action required, I don't have any in here right now that like where an action is required for myself, but this is really helpful just to like filter out for what you need to do. Also overdue is really helpful. But you can see all the different options that you have here that you can toggle on to filter out for specifically what you need. And then you can also search by like keywords to find what you're looking for. We'll get into generating reports at the end here, but this is super helpful for getting, a report of all your different RFIs that are open to like, to bring to a meeting. So I'm going to start by going through a closed out RFI here. So I'm going to go into this one and just kind of walk through what this looks like. So at the bottom, that's like where our original question is going to be. And anytime we have like an update, whatever the most recent update is going to live on top. So in this case, it was a quick question with an answer that came back immediately. And so it's pretty simple. But if there was any back and forth, it'd be kind of chronological with like the oldest part being at the bottom and the newest part being at the top. But here we can see our question here. We have a good question with a suggestion, and there was an attachment with some markup, with like a markup here. We'll go through like actually opening up an RFI and what that will look like. But any attachments that would be relevant would be included here. And then we have our response. And then going on the right-hand side here, we have our details. So in this case, there's no reference number, but if there was, that would be listed here. And then we'd also have like any cost or schedule impacts listed. And then below this, we have where it's linked within like other parts of Fieldwire. So we'll show you what that looks like in a second here, but just know that you can like link this to other locations, which makes it really powerful for finding it and like making it easy for the guys in the field to pull it up. So yeah, these are the kind of the different couple options. In this case, it's linked directly onto a plan. So that's why it's shown here. And then next to that, we have our activity log. So this is going to kind of timestamp and be like an audit trail for us for every time that a step is taken. So you can see, it starts in the draft state by Bob, and then each step that's taken is timestamped with like when an action is taken by somebody. And then on the right-hand side, these are our watchers, which is basically just like CCing somebody on the RFI. Cool. So going back to my log here, I have a couple different ways that I can start an RFI. I can do it directly from the log here and just do new RFI and then start creating one. Or I can do it a couple different ways from my plans, which is kind of what I recommend. I mean, this is like, again, we're connecting that field and office part. So it makes it really easy for people to find what they're looking for. So if I click into a plan here, I have two different ways I could do this. I can go to the hyperlinking tool and I can choose the RFI hyperlink. And here I could choose exactly like where I want this to be and zoom into like the location. And then here, either I could start a new RFI or I could link an existing one. So I'll just link an existing one and then I could easily pull that up and look at that RFI. The other option that we have is creating an RFI from a task. So if I click into this task, here's one that's like kind of an issue that arose on site. And so for those unfamiliar with tasks, I mean, tasks are a great way of like either planning out your work and being proactive or tracking more reactive items. So in this case, this is like we're tracking an issue here. But let's say like this is a little bit more of like this needs to be an official RFI. What we can do with this is we can choose this little blue paperclip option and then click on RFI. And then I can do new or existing. In this case, I'm going to do new. And then it's going to automatically populate the title of the task as the title of the RFI. And it's also going to have this copy photos from this task enabled. So I'm just going to leave that enabled and I'm going to go ahead and create my draft here. And then this is going to be linked now to this task. So from here, I'm going to click into this and I'm just going to type out my question here. And then, I can put in a suggestion. I can also put in whatever other relevant information is that I need to require. So I'm going to maybe put in a crop plan here. So I'm just going to search for where this was located on that plan. And then I'm going to crop that. From here, I can go ahead and do like a couple markups with that. Just give that a sec to load. I can do, put a text box here. I can highlight it, put a measurement. In this case, I'm just going to throw an arrow showing where it is. And then I could also add in like cut sheets if I wanted to, really any other files that would be relevant for this RFI. From here, you can also see before I send this out, you can see that that link is now linked to a task here. So it has this task spin. So that's just helpful for when I'm going into this later, I can just, go back into that task if I need to. From here, I have a couple different options for submitting this. So when I hit submit question, it's going to give me two options. I can either send this to somebody on this project that's like a project user, or if they're not on this project, so this would be a more subcontractor workflow, this would be, I would choose the email address, and I can send this directly to someone's email if they're not on my Fieldwire project. In this case, I'm kind of acting as like the general contractor here, and I'm sending this to the architect. So I'm going to choose project user, and I'm going to choose Joe here to send this to him. And then I could also choose additional reviewers if I want. I'm just going to leave it to Joe for now. And then I'm going to choose a due date for a week from now, and then say, hey, Joe, now please see attached RFI. Oops. And then I'll hit submit, and this will get sent over to Joe. And then I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing and let Joe share on his end.
Awesome. Thanks, Dylan. So sharing my screen. Can you guys see that all right now? Dylan, you're able to see my screen there?
Yep.
Cool.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah. So in this scenario, Dylan mentioned he's acting as the general contractor. I'm the architect on this project. I'm a project user. So this is my view of the RFI log. I can see if I go to my RFIs, I have this new one that was just assigned to me. I also got an email notification linking me back to this RFI as well that Dylan just submitted to me. So we're going to go ahead and take a look and check it out. So this is what the approver or whoever you're asking the RFI question to will see. So they're going to be able to see the question, any of those attachments you added to it, and then they have a large text box where they can put in their response. So whatever the response is and whatever documentation they wanted to include to provide insight into that response, they can do so right here. Pretty much the same options that Dylan was shown there. So a couple other things we can do within this view. If for some reason this was like needed to be assigned to maybe my teammate, I have the ability to reassign it to them. Maybe I know it's actually my coworker who needs to take a look at this. We can reassign it and push it over to them. But in this scenario, let's say I got all the information I need. I'm capable of providing a response. So let's just say center the faucet on the sink. And maybe we provide another crop plan. Dylan already did one, so I'll skip that step. But from here, pretty straightforward. All we got to do is submit the answer. Already has Dylan pre-selected, and then we'll just return it to him. And then I'll pass it back to you, Dylan, to kind of show the next steps there.
Sweet. All right. So going back into, can you see my screen, Joe? Good.
Yep. Yeah, looks good.
Sweet. So going back into the RFI log here, again, like Joe said, I can go to my RFIs. I could also do like my action required, and it would filter out for just this one RFI that we have here. And then I can go ahead and click into this and either accept or reject this answer. So pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and just accept this. And then from here, I can choose different people to, send this out to in this distribution list. And from there, it's pretty simple. We're just going to accept it and close it out. And now this is a closed out RFI, and we're good to go. And then if I went back to this task here, this is going to show. Oh, why isn't it loading? Try to access this from my plans tab. If I go back to my task here, this original task, I have this now answered RFI that's linked here. I could even do this like as an example. I could do @BobSuper, please see attached RFI response, and that would let it notify him that we have a direction and he can proceed. So just kind of closing out that workflow there. If I go back to my RFIs tab here, I just want to show one last thing before we get into submittals is generating reports. So this is super helpful for getting this outside of like bringing this to like an OAC meeting or something to show, what RFIs are outstanding. I can do this either in a CSV format or a PDF format. If I do a PDF format, this is kind of what it will look like. It's just going to give us, our summary with all the different counts of the numbers of RFIs in each status. And then it will give us the RFI with like the number, the name, status, and like who it's currently assigned to and due date down here. All right. I think that's it on RFIs. I'm going to now hand it. Oh, yeah.
Real quick, I saw a couple of questions. Do you think you could show the export of one RFI, just what that looks like?
Oh, yeah. Well? Great call. Yep. So if I go back into this one that I closed out, if I wanted to get to this to somebody that's not on Fieldwire, what I can do is I can go to actions and I can either email or download this PDF. So if I hit email, it's going to pull up a box that I can email it with. And then if I download the PDF version of it, it's just going to give me this. And then this is what this will look like that I can send. And I can send this to like anybody outside of Fieldwire. Anything else to add on there, Joe?
I think that's it. So this scenario, we're really focused on the general contractor, or architect personas. Again, you could do this with subcontractor in the external email. That's actually the workflow we're going to show after this in submittals to kind of give you the different perspectives on how the different personas can use it.
Yep, exactly. All right, and we'll do our best to get to some more questions too at the end. But I'm glad this is a good one to cover before jumping into the next thing here. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing and I'll let you share your screen, Joe.
Awesome. I think we have a poll coming up.
Poll question. That's right. Sorry.
Yeah. So how are you guys currently tracking your RFIs today? We got Excel, email, Fieldwire, other systems.
If you put other, if you don't mind just putting in the chat what that other system is, just at a high level, couple quick words, we'd really appreciate it. Just give that a little bit more time. All right.
Awesome. So let's jump into specifications and submittals now. So I'll go ahead, share my screen. That looking good, Dylan?
Still loading. Oh, there we go. Good to go now.
Nice. Awesome. So in this scenario, we're going to shift personas. So I'm going to act as the subcontractor. This is a completely separate project. Dylan's going to act as my general contractor who's not even on Fieldwire. So I'm really using Fieldwire internally for myself. He might be using a different system. So first, just giving a little overview of our submittal log. Looks pretty identical to our RFI log. So if you're able to pick up one, you should be able to pick up the other pretty quickly. We have the same report generation capabilities, the same quick filters that we have up top. A couple of other things, we can customize our table view. So if we wanted to add in a reference number, maybe add in some more dates, we got a whole bunch of dates and response times you can add in. If you want to shift them around, you're able to do that too. So pretty easy to customize how this looks. I'm going to turn off a couple of these just to make it a little more simple for us. And we'll keep it like that. And then however you have that table set up, that's going to be how it looks when you export it to. And then RFIs works pretty much the same way with that table. But before we jump into submittals, I'm going to first start with our specifications. So I've uploaded one spec section already, but I'm going to go ahead and upload my spec book for this project, and we'll just see how that process works. So let me go ahead and select that file. So it's going to upload, and what it's doing now is it's reading through our spec book and it's trying to identify all the different spec sections within it. And once it identifies all those different spec sections, it's going to prompt me to confirm that those spec sections are correct, that the numbering it identified and the names it identified are correct. So it just did that. Let's take a look and see. And so you can see we got this big spec book, and if we want to jump to like certain pages within it, we can double check, but it looks like it got most of this correct, maybe just one for the cover page that I'll throw in. And then we'll confirm it. So all it's doing now is splitting all those sections into their own PDF, essentially. And what's nice about this is then we're actually able to link different entities to specific spec sections. We're able to extract submittals from them, add markups to them, a whole bunch of different things. And we'll see we got one version conflict. So like I mentioned, we had already uploaded this cast in place concrete spec section. So this is going to be a revision to that spec section, which it's identifying here for us. So let's just review that and double check. Okay, this is a new version that we want to maintain. We'll say add as new version. And there we go. So what I'm going to do now is extract submittals from the spec book. So you could select all of them, extract. In my scenario, I know I'm only responsible for some of these concrete spec sections. So I'm going to go ahead and extract submittals from that spec section. So what it's doing now, it's reading through our spec section we selected and trying to identify any submittals that it finds within it. As soon as it does, it's going to send me an email with a CSV file of all the submittals that it found in that spec section. So it can take up to an hour if you select a lot of them. This one should be a bit quicker since I just selected one. But let's go ahead and take a look. So I just got this email. We'll jump to this tab. So this is what you'll see. You'll get an email saying, hey, we found submittals in this section that you selected. I'm going to download that CSV file. And if I wanted to like edit that CSV file, I could if we wanted to kind of update what it found. But once that CSV file looks good, I'll just go ahead and jump back to my submittals tab and click import my draft submittals. One note, if we did have submittals that we wanted to bring in from a different system, maybe we're starting the project midway through, or maybe we have another contractor's relevant submittals that we want to reference in Fieldwire. We can also import closed ones. So that's important maybe if your general's using a different system, but you want to be able to reference the relevant submittals directly in here. You can import those as closed. But this scenario, we are going to just select our ones we just extracted, and we're doing this as drafts. So you can see it just bulk created a whole bunch of draft ones. I'm going to go ahead and select one of these now, and we'll select this shop drying package. We can see it's linked our spec section here. If we wanted to open it up, we can check it out, read through it a bit more. And then you'll see it automatically found the type. And it found a whole bunch of other information that it extracted from it. So a couple other things in this details area, activity watcher is pretty much the same as RFIs. But let's go ahead and add an attachment and show you kind of what this external workflow looks like. So I'll go ahead and select a shop drawing package I have. We'll upload that. If we did want to like make any annotations or insert any sheets within it, this is a PDF editor that has some of the basic tools here, but no worries if we didn't want to do that. And then maybe let's add in a couple other things. So we could put in a lead time. Maybe we know this is like a 10-week lead time. And if we had an on-site date, maybe we know it's going to be, we'll say 2026, we'll say like December 1st. So it does suggest submit by time just based off of the on-site date minus the weeks, minus the 2-week review. So does a little helpful there if it's relevant for you. But we'll go ahead and submit this for approval. We do have multiple workflows. So if you are like the GC persona and you wanted to request these draft submittals from a subcontractor who's on the platform, you can request it. This specific scenario, we're gonna submit this to our general contractor who is not on Fieldwire. So like Dylan mentioned, we have those two options. You can do the project user if they're on Fieldwire, or the email address if they're not on Fieldwire, which is what we're gonna do now. And I've already sent one to Dylan using this email, so it's already gonna populate there. If I did want to put in any CC emails, they'll just receive the carbon copy of it, just like a normal email. I'm going to leave that blank for now. And then we can put a due date. It's just going to automatically put 2 weeks unless we change it. And then from here, I'll go ahead and submit this to Dylan. So this is what it looks like once we submit it to him. You'll see a couple of things. The first one being the assignee is that email address that we associated it with. Our activity is going to show that we sent it to them on that timestamp date. And then within our submittal log itself, I'll add back in the reviewers column, but you'll see we're actually have that email address there as well. So we know that it's in their court essentially. But from here, I'm gonna turn it over to Dylan so you can see how that comes in via email and what the next steps look like there. So I'll turn it back to you, Dylan.
Cool, thanks, Joe. All right, so I'm just gonna share my email screen here. Can you see that? Okay, Joe?
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, I got a new email from Joe for this submittal. I'll just go ahead and click into that. It's going to give me kind of a summary of like what got sent over. And then if I scroll to the bottom here, I have like the submittal itself. So I could open that up and it's got all the like relevant information inside here. Here I can maybe download it, and then I'd probably open this up in like a Bluebeam or whatever I'm reviewing this in to go through and like stamp it and just do my like full review or send it out to whoever else I need to. And then once I have like, you know, my response, I would just go back to this email, can hit reply to this email and say, you know, hey Joe, please see attached for approved submittal. And then I'll just attach this one here. And then from here, I would just go ahead and send it back directly to Joe. So pretty straightforward. I mean, this is me not being in Fieldwire, but I can still reply to the email and Joe will show you what happens next. Cool. And then I'll stop screen sharing and hand it back to Joe.
Sweet. So jumping back in Fieldwire, we're going to see now my perspective from the response that Dylan just sent back to me. So I'll also get a email notification, let me know that, hey, we got a response from Dylan. But I can also view this in Fieldwire, showing us what this looks like as well. So we can see this shop drawing package. We have this little blue banner now that says, hey, we received an email response, view the activity to actually check it out. So let's go ahead, look at the activity, and we can see the email reply that Dylan just sent us via email. We can actually check it out right here in the little activity. We can take a look at his PDF he sent us. We all just did that, so I'm going to go ahead and mark this as the answer. So all this is doing is pulling that info that Dylan sent us that lives in the activity, putting it into our response now. So we'll say Dylan said it was approved. If maybe he sent this on a Friday and I didn't get to it until a Monday, we can change the response receive date to accurately reflect it. But if things look solid, we'll go ahead, add the response. And now we have the response looking official right there. From here, we can do a couple of things. Let's say maybe this response came back, revise and resubmit. We could then create a revision and basically start over within the same file or submittal area and submit again for approval to Dylan, basically going through the same steps until we get approved. But we're going to say this one looks good to go. We'll go ahead, close it out, and show you what that looks like. If I did have any other people, I could distribute it to them, but it's really just me on this project. So I'll go ahead and close that out. And then just showing what this PDF looks like. Basically the same options we were seeing in Dylan's RFI example. It's going to look pretty much the same there. So we'll take a look at this. And basically this is what it's showing. We can jump down to our approval. And we can actually see that file as well. Oops. So that is pretty much our submittal workflow. A couple other things I wanted to hit on. So the reporting, like Dylan mentioned, the same as RFIs, you can filter this down as much as you want, generate a report, and it will basically be displayed however you have your table shown. If you wanted to customize your submittal responses, you can do that in the settings here. And then one other new feature we have that I wanted to show is going to be our cross-project dashboard. So we know oftentimes our customers are on multiple projects. So clicking into every single one to view your logs might be time consuming. So we've built a new dashboard feature on our home screen right here, and I'll zoom this in a little bit. But basically, if we wanted to look at my submittals across the various projects I'm on, we can take a look. We can jump into any of them. And the entities we have here are task forms, RFIs, submittals, and change orders. So we can look if we have any due in the next 7 days. I'm all caught up, so looking good to go there. I just have a bunch of really old ones. But this is one of our newer features that came out, so just wanted to highlight that one. And I think that's it for submittals, but I'm going to jump back to give you the screen, Dylan, and we'll do, I think we got another poll question coming up.
Yep, let's go ahead and do that.
Sweet. So yeah, how are you guys currently tracking your submittals today? We got Excel, email messages, Fieldwire, other systems. And yeah, if you're doing something in the other, if you could let us know what that is, that'd be awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for those responses. We'll jump back into our presentation now. And just wanted to highlight a couple of the upcoming releases in the next few months here that we're working on. So deleting RFIs after they leave the draft state, that just got released recently. Editing the RFI number. So if you wanted to start at RFI 100 instead of 1, you could do so. If you had like a specific format, like maybe you wanted to be maybe like a project code and then the RFI number, you could do that too. So basically it just iterates from whatever the previous highest one is. That's coming out in a couple of weeks. We also have a concept of like a lead company. If you have multiple companies on the project and you wanted to designate yours as the lead company, that just means all documentation has to go through you before it can go to anybody else. So we have the ability basically to have, if a subcontractor generates an RFI, sends it to the general contractor who's the lead company, they can convert that RFI into their own and then reassign it to the architect. So that's what the third bullet is there, or actually the fourth bullet. Pinning RFIs to plans on mobile, submitting RFIs on mobile, and then linking tasks and submittals as well. And yeah, those are some of our upcoming features coming out pretty soon.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joe and Dylan, for going over these workflows. We have a lot of questions coming in. Let's quickly open it up for a Q&A session. Firstly, yes, this video recording will be available and it's gonna be emailed to all of you within like a day-ish. So just keep an eye out for that email. So the first question, actually, we have a couple of questions in this format, but I think you kind of showed it. The thing is, why this is while RFIs were being shown, how would an RFI, if you're sending it to external user, look like? What the PDF looks like? Maybe Joe, can you like explain if there's going to be any difference between RFIs and submittals in the external workflow, or are they pretty much same?
They're pretty much the same. So yeah, the external RFI with that email workflow going to look identical to what we showed with the submittals one just now. Just the PDF's going to have question answer attachment instead of attachment with like submission, review, approval.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joe. The next question, again, like a combination of two questions. How are the RFI numbers generated, and are these RFI numbers customizable?
Yeah, great question. So right now they're generated based off of the company you're in. So the company code is based on whatever company you're in. And then it starts at 001 and goes up from that. Like I mentioned in the upcoming releases, we're adding the ability to customize that numbering coming out in a couple of weeks. So if you did want to change that to be, just like the number one instead of 001, if you did want to start at 100, you'll basically be able to use numbers, letters, and symbols however you want in that number. So yeah, coming pretty soon with the customization there.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question is, what is the criteria Fieldwire uses to extract submittals? Do you know?
Yeah, so the first one is a CSI formatted spec book. So if you're using like a cause or DOT, at this time we don't have, our algorithm does not detect submittals in those formats. And then basically within the CSI formatted one, we're looking within the submittals section. We can maybe pull up maybe like the cast in place concrete.
Does this one?
Or this one works. Yeah, I think it's actually on the first page if you scroll up there. Yeah, so basically it's looking at within this one, it looks like there's just a couple of submittals for the O&Ms that we're looking for. So I think this would probably create at least 2 submittals from that. And so it's looking like where the 1.1 section is, wherever it says submittals, typically in the general section, the part 1, and then it's going to look for after like the paragraph, the first set of indents. So the SD10 and that SD11 is what it's going to be identifying.
Awesome. Thank you. We're at time, but I'll just do one more question. Thank you so much, guys, if you have to drop. But I'm just going to do one more question before we end this. Is the dashboard, the final dashboard that you showed, Joe, the 2 questions on that, is that only accessible on Business Plus tier? Question 1. And then also, if you go back to the dashboard, you showed Bay Area as like a group.
Oh, yeah.
You do the groups.
Yes, I believe it is Business Plus right now, but I believe we are bringing it to business because we have the tasks and forms. I'm almost positive.
I think it's gonna be in April. Yeah.
April. Okay. And
Roughly.
then
I can't say that fully, but that's what I've heard.
yeah. And then for the group, so those are going to be based off of, I think you actually do them in the projects. Basically, they're showing like the colored rectangles still in the project tags. Or if you jump to the projects, we can show quickly how to like add those in the projects tab.
Yeah. If I want to go and edit like a label, these are, you can create a new label or you can choose from any one of these ones that have already been created.
Yeah, so just another way to like organize your projects if you wanted to do like active, complete, pretty customizable.
Awesome. Thank you so much, both Joe and Dylan, for explaining all this. Thank you, everyone, for attending this session, and I hope this was useful. And again, we would really appreciate it if you can take a couple of seconds to answer the survey here. And if we haven't gotten back to any of your questions, we'll reply back via an email so that you have all the answers that you need. Thank you so much. And there goes the survey.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.